Yo, this your boy, the real McCoy, coming at you, man. Talking about boxing for all my boxing heads out there, man. And before we get to boxing, man, I got a dilemma. I got a serious dilemma, man. I was gonna do a few consecutive videos while I'm sitting here, and then once I got done, the plan was for me to continue reading. You guys see that? I was gonna finish reading not finish it, but continue reading Moby Dick. You know what I mean? I was gonna finish reading Moby Dick, scratch it off the bucket list. I never read it. I wanted to read it, put it on the bookshelf, scratch it off the list. That was the plan. But what came in the mail today is this. You know, or should I say like this? You know what I mean? There we go. Yeah. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. Never really watched them. Never really got into it. This wasn't my thing. But I went ahead and ordered them. I ordered this first, episode 4, 5, and 6. Didn't know anything about the order. Didn't know none of that. Then 1, 2, and 3 came in the mail today. So I guess I'm gonna go ahead and binge watch Star Wars, or should I read Moby Dick? I mean, that's the dilemma. You know what I mean? Hey, well, I'm kind of excited about these Star Wars joints, though, man. You know. Anyway, man, let's talk about boxing for my boxing heads, man. Talking about, I did a video earlier, speaking on January 16th, big fights in the heavyweight division. The Barclays Center is having a big card, 3 heavyweight fights, impactful, meaningful fights in the heavyweight division, things like that. This video here, we talking about Dominic Breazeale and Amir Mansour. Good fight, good competitive fight. Mansour kind of got a late start. He's 43 years old. I think he did like 8 or 9 years in prison, if I heard correctly. Tough guy. That's the way he fights, you know what I'm saying? His last fight against Gerald Washington, he fought to a draw. And what was interesting about that fight, I was like, this fight kind of reminded me of Dominic Breazeale against Fred Cassie. Because when you look at Gerald Washington and both of those fights are so similar. You know, Dominic Breazeale and Amir Mansour. I said Mansour's last fight was Gerald Washington, a prospect. And Dominic Breazeale, a prospect, his last fight was Fred Cassie. And I was like, you look at the measurables and the styles of how both of these guys fight and how those fights played out. I'm like, they were very similar. With Breazeale and Gerald Washington being about 6'6", 6'7", with about 80-inch reach. And Mansour and Fred Cassie about 6 foot, 6'1", with about a 74-inch reach. And both Washington and Breazeale, they had a hard time keeping the smaller man off of them. You know, as a matter of fact, the Mansour and Gerald Washington fight ended in a draw. I personally had Mansour winning that fight by 1 point, by 1 round. 6 rounds, a 10-round fight. I had him winning it 6 rounds to 4. So if they had it a draw, I wouldn't argue with it, because Washington was kind of winning the first rounds. Then he kind of just took his foot off the gas and just took like 3 or 4 rounds off. But Mansour found his range and get aggressive. But yeah, and I was like, these with Dominic Breazeale, and I said the same thing about Breazeale when I had a preview he was supposed to fight Charles Martin. You know what I mean? But Martin, he's fighting on that same card, but he's fighting Glasgow. I was like, Dominic Breazeale he doesn't know how to keep the smaller man off of him. Doesn't really use his jab, not really good head movement. He has that Canelo effect where he goes through these spurts, even worse than Canelo at times, where he just covers up and won't throw a punch, fatigue, stamina issues. And I was like, if you allow Fred Cassie, even though Breazeale clearly won the fight, Cassie had his moments. He got inside of Breazeale, roughed him up, landed some good shots, and Dominic Breazeale doesn't know how to use his jab. Make the smaller man pay. Like with Amir Mansour, if you're a smaller man, a smaller heavyweight like Mansour, to get inside of a bigger guy's reach and his height, things like that, you gotta have head movement, jab of your own. But Mansour is southpaw, you got a jab of your own, footwork, head movement, angles, cut off the ring, you know what I mean, things like that. Jab to his body, his chest, shoulders, things like that. That's how you get it. But the key thing is patience. You gotta have patience now, you know, and that's what his trainer should be telling him. But Amir Mansour doesn't have that. He wants to bang, he wants to fight. So instead of being patient and doing those things to get inside, because he's southpaw, he throws those wild looping right hooks, lunging left hand. He does have power in his left hand, Mansour. He does have power in that left hand. Throws those looping wild straight left, things like that, way out of range to try and land that big shot. And you know, if it lands, he can hurt you now. And like I say, when he fought Washington, and I think Dominic Breazeale is a little bit more talented, a little bit more skilled than Washington, and does have, you know, a little bit more better power. I think Breazeale 16-0, 14 knockouts. He does have some power, but you gotta make him pay. You know what I mean? If he's gonna throw that wild left way out of range, you take that step back, and then you hit him with that straight right hand right down the middle. You know, the best punch against a southpaw is that straight right down the middle. Wow, you know what I mean? Things like that, or take that step back. You know, he counter with that left hook. Things like that, because you know, Amir Mansour, he got dropped by Steve Cunningham. You know, Cunningham's not known for being, you know, a big puncher, but and you know, Dominic Breazeale does have some power. But Dominic Breazeale, I mean, you've got to reach, use that jab. I mean, jab, man, that was me, man. I'm jabbing you in your nose and your forehead all day. You know what I'm saying? All day. Right hand, you know what I mean? If you come inside of me, I'm uppercut. That's what I would do, you know. But he doesn't really jab. He allows smaller men to get. This is gonna be a tough fight. This is gonna be a physically tough fight for Breazeale. Mansour is gonna test your heart. He's gonna test your endurance, your stamina, things like that. He's gonna test your jab. If you don't have a good jab to keep him off and to keep him at bay, he's gonna get inside of you. And Mansour does have some pretty decent power in his left hand. You know, he has some pretty good power in his left hand, man. And he's tough as nails, man. And Mansour is tough. He's 43 years old, but man, the old man is tough. The guy is absolutely tough, man. And he's coming. And from what I've seen from Breazeale thus far, he has a hard time keeping the smaller guys off of him. He doesn't really jab, doesn't really use a lot of head movement, stationary target. Like I say, he has that Canelo effect where, I don't call it Canelo effect, but Canelo's the guy that comes to everybody's mind where he goes through these spurts where they just won't throw punches. They just high guard, cover up. I'm assuming it's stamina, endurance, because Mansour is going, I mean, he's going to test your heart, your stamina, your endurance. You know what I mean? And see if your core, if your body's in shape. He's going to test you. That's what he does. You know, he wants to get in that bang, brawl, and that's what because he's a small heavyweight. He's not going to jab, things like that. He should, but he doesn't. You know, and it's going to be a tough fight for, I mean, I do believe that, you know, Breazeale is a little bit more skilled, talented, a little bit better than Gerald Washington. Or Gerald Washington, he's a former football player at the USC. And I think Dominic Breazeale, because you know he kind of got the boxing kind of late, you know, and Breazeale's been doing it, you know, for a little bit longer. I do think he's a little bit better than Gerald Washington. But when I saw both of those guys' last fights and the measurables and how the fights played out, I was like, man, I can see that fight actually going kind of the same way. I can picture Mansour being rough and physical, and that right there wins him rounds, and this fight could end up being a draw. You know, I believe it's a 10-round fight, and Mansour, you can make a case that he lost the first 4, maybe even the first 5, at least the first 3 or 4. He lost the first 4 rounds to Gerald Washington in a 10-round fight, and the fight still ended up being a draw. You know, Dominic Breazeale, I think he clearly beat Fred Cassie, but Cassie had his moments where he got inside Breazeale and roughed him up a little bit. But I do think Dominic Breazeale is a little bit more talented and skilled than Gerald Washington. But like I say, Mansour is going to test him. Mansour is going to test, and I don't know if, it's going to be tough, man. This is going to be, if Dominic Breazeale isn't jabbing and keeping Mansour off of him behind his reach and his height, the clear advantage that he has, clear advantages that he has, reach advantage, things like that. If you can't keep him off of him, Mansour is going to crowd him, get inside, make it rough and tough. And if Breazeale, if he's not going to throw punches and just cover up, you can lose those rounds. And before you know it, you know, with through 9 rounds, Dominic Breazeale might be up 5 rounds to 4. Mansour might be up 5 rounds to 4, depending on the scorecard. Before you know it, boom, we got another draw. You know, but it's going to be a tough fight. This is going to be because from what I've seen from Breazeale, like, why won't this dude jab? He's fighting these smaller guys, and he has a hard time keeping them off of him. I don't know, man. I'm leaning towards Breazeale. I'm trusting the young prospect, you know what I mean, coming up, trying to make a name for himself. But his jab, his work rate, his jab, it's got to be better. It's definitely got to be better, or Mansour is gonna beat him. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a tough fight. It's gonna be a tough fight for Breazeale. You know. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Think, man, all my boxing heads out there, man, and I'm finna do a couple more videos. Then I gotta decide Star Wars or read Moby Dick, man. Dilemmas. Anyway, let me know what you guys think, man. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff. And boxing heads, man, I'm out, man. Peace.